I stared at my husband's phone, my fingers trembling as they hovered over the screen. 23 years of marriage, and here I was, invading his privacy like a common thief. The house felt too quiet, too still, as if holding its breath along with me. "Just put it down, Cora," I whispered to myself. But I couldn't. Not after seeing that notification flash across his screen while he showered. Not after weeks of late nights and vague explanations. The message preview taunted me, "Hannah, I miss you already." Last night was. My thumb pressed the home button before I could stop myself. No password required. Ben had never bothered changing it from our anniversary date. The irony wasn't lost on me. The full message materialized, "I miss you already." Last night was perfect. Can't wait to feel your arms around me again. Remember, delete these messages. My stomach lurched. The phone slipped from my grasp, landing face down on our kitchen counter. The same counter where Ben had surprised me with breakfast just last weekend, kissing my neck while I pretended to complain about the mess he'd made. The shower upstairs stopped running. I had maybe 2 minutes before he came down. I picked up the phone again, my hands steadier now. Anger has a way of clearing your vision. I scrolled through their conversation history, taking screenshots and sending them to myself. Each message was another nail in the coffin of my marriage. Getting tired of sneaking around. Soon, baby. I promise. You make me feel alive. Hannah. His former intern. The bright young thing who'd brought coffee to our company Christmas party last year. She couldn't be more than 22. Footsteps on the stairs. I placed his phone exactly where I'd found it and turned to the sink, running water over dishes that were already clean. "Morning, honey." Ben's voice was cheerful as he entered the kitchen. He wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, just like he always did. His familiar cologne made me want to vomit. "Morning." I kept scrubbing the spotless plate. "Good shower?" "Perfect. Though I'm running late." He reached past me for his phone. "Big meeting today." I watched his reflection in the window above the sink. Watched him check his messages, his expression never changing. Such a practiced liar. "Will you be home for dinner?" I asked, knowing the answer. Probably not. The Henderson project is in its final stages. He kissed my cheek. "Don't wait up." The Henderson project. Right. I wondered if that's what he called her when talking to his friends. "The boys are coming home this weekend," I said. "Evan's bringing his new girlfriend." "That's great." He was already heading for the door, attention fixed on his phone. "We'll catch up tonight." The front door closed. His car started. And just like that, I was alone with the knowledge that my life was imploding. I dried my hands and pulled out my own phone, looking at the screenshots I'd taken. My fingers hovered over Martha's number. My sister would know what to do. But I couldn't call her. Not yet. This felt too raw, too personal. Instead, I walked to our bedroom and opened Ben's closet. The familiar scent of his clothes hit me, and for a moment, I was tempted to bury my face in them and pretend this was all a nightmare. But there, on his navy suit jacket, the one he'd worn last night, was a long blonde hair. Hannah's signature platinum shade. I plucked it off carefully and placed it in an envelope. First piece of evidence secured. My hands weren't shaking anymore. In fact, they were perfectly steady as I reached for a suitcase on the top shelf. Let him have his Henderson project tonight. I had some planning of my own to do. The boys arrived home from college that weekend, bringing with them the familiar chaos of duffel bags and dirty laundry. I watched them from the kitchen window as they pulled into the driveway. Evan's beat-up Civic followed by Lucas's skateboard scraping against the pavement. My hands gripped the counter's edge, steadying myself for what was about to become the performance of my lifetime. Mom! Lucas burst through the door first, all gangly limbs and floppy hair. Where's Dad? I need him to look at my laptop. It's making this weird noise. Working late, I said, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. Henderson Project. Evan appeared behind his brother, eyes narrowing slightly. He'd always been more perceptive. Again? That's the third weekend this month. I busied myself with the pasta sauce I'd been stirring. You know how these final stages can be. Right. Evan dropped his bag by the door. Because real estate development requires so many late-night meetings. The wooden spoon clattered against the pot. Evan. I'm just saying. He crossed his arms, leaning against the doorframe. Something's different. You're different. Lucas looked between us, confusion clouding his features. What's going on? Nothing, I said, too quickly. Everything's fine. Evan, where's this girlfriend we're supposed to meet? She couldn't make it. His eyes didn't leave my face. Had a family thing. The front door opened again, and Ben's voice called out, "Hello? Anyone home?" My stomach clenched. He wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I'd counted on having more time to prepare, to perfect my act. In the kitchen, I called back, forcing brightness into my voice. Look who's home. Ben appeared, wearing the same suit from this morning, his tie loosened. No lipstick stains this time. He must be getting better at cleaning up after himself. My boys. He embraced them both, and I watched their faces carefully. Lucas melted into the hug, but Evan remained stiff, his jaw tight. Thought you had work, Evan said. Wrapped up early. Couldn't miss family dinner. Ben's smile was perfect, practiced. He turned to me. Something smells amazing, honey. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. The sauce bubbled, reminding me of the anger simmering just beneath my surface. Actually, Evan said, I wanted to talk to you both about something. He pulled out his phone. I ran into Uncle James at the coffee shop near campus last week. He mentioned seeing you, Dad, at that new restaurant downtown. Said you were having quite the business dinner. The kitchen went silent. Ben's smile didn't waver, but I saw his hand twitch slightly. Must have been someone else, Ben said smoothly. I haven't been to any new restaurants lately. Weird. Evan scrolled through his phone. Because he sent me a picture. Said he was going to forward it to you both, but I guess he forgot. My heart raced. I hadn't known about this. Hadn't planned for it. Let me see, Lucas said, reaching for the phone. No! Ben and I spoke simultaneously, then looked at each other. Lucas stepped back, hurt flashing across his face. What's going on? Why are you both acting so weird? Your father's tired, I said, switching off the stove. And dinner's ready. Why don't we all just... Stop it, Mom. Evan's voice cracked. Stop pretending everything's okay when it's not. We're not kids anymore. Ben moved toward him. Son. Don't. Evan backed away. Don't pretend you care about this family when you're out there. Enough. I slammed my hand on the counter. They all jumped. Evan, help Lucas set the table. Ben, a word in the study. Now. As I followed Ben down the hallway, I caught Evan's eye. The pain there, the betrayal, it mirrored my own. But beneath it was something else, determination. In that moment, I realized I wasn't the only one planning revenge. The question was, whose would come first? Martha's garden always smelled like lavender and secrets. I sat at her wrought iron patio table, clutching my phone so tightly my knuckles had gone white. The email I'd just received from Hannah's doctor's office, forwarded to me by accident thanks to Ben's shared email account, burned in my mind like a brand. 12 weeks, I said, my voice hollow. She's 12 weeks pregnant. Martha set down her coffee cup with enough force to crack china. That little. Don't. I pressed my fingers to my temples. I can't even process this yet. Have you told the boys? God, no. I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. Evan's already suspicious enough. And Lucas. He still idolizes his father. Martha reached across the table, covering my hand with hers. You need to confront Ben. And say what? Congratulations on your new family? Say whatever you need to say to get your share of the assets before he tries hiding them. She squeezed my hand. I've seen this before, Cora. Men like Ben, they. My phone buzzed. A text from Lucas, Mom, come home. Something's wrong with Evan. I have to go. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. The boys. I'm coming with you. We found them in the driveway. Evan was pacing, his hands covered in red paint. Lucas stood by his car, pale and shaking. What happened? I demanded. Show her, Lucas said quietly. Evan pointed to Ben's precious Mercedes, now adorned with foot-high letters across the hood, cheater. Jesus, Evan. Martha whispered. I saw them, he spat. Dad and that intern. At Riverside Park. They didn't see me, but I saw everything. His voice cracked. He had his hands all over her. She can't be much older than me. The pregnancy revelation burned in my throat. I swallowed it back. Go inside, both of you. Mom. Now. They went, leaving Martha and me staring at the ruined car. The paint was still wet, dripping down like blood. He'll be home soon, I said. Good. Martha's voice was steel. Let him see it. I should clean it off. Why? To protect him? From what? The consequences of his own actions. Before I could answer, Ben's company SUV turned into the driveway. He slammed on the brakes, staring through the windshield at his defaced Mercedes. What the hell? He was out of the car before it fully stopped. What happened to my car? Evan saw you today, I said quietly. At Riverside Park. The color drained from his face. Cora, I can explain. Can you explain this too? I held up my phone, showing him the doctor's email. 12 weeks, Ben. Were you ever going to tell me? He stepped back, glancing between Martha and me. That was meant to be private. Private? Martha advanced on him. Like screwing your intern in public parks is private? Stay out of this, Martha. Or what? You'll ruin her life too? The front door opened. Evan stood there, Lucas behind him, both watching with identical expressions of disgust. Boys, Ben started. Don't. Evan's voice shook. Don't pretend you care about us now. Of course I care. You're my sons. And what about the new one? The words escaped before I could stop them. Will you care about that one too? Or will you abandon it like you're abandoning us? Lucas made a small, wounded sound. What? Your father's girlfriend is pregnant, I said, watching Ben flinch. Apparently we're all going to be one big happy family. That's not, Ben reached for me. Cora, please. We can work this out. I stepped back. No, we can't. Because this isn't just about me anymore. This is about our sons watching their father throw away 23 years of marriage for someone barely older than they are. This is about you choosing your ego over your family. Mom, Lucas whispered. What are we going to do? I looked at my youngest son, seeing the child he used to be overlaid with the man he was becoming. Then at Evan, straight-backed and fierce in his righteousness. Finally at Ben, who couldn't even meet my eyes anymore. We're going to do what we should have done weeks ago, I said. We're going to stop pretending. I turned to Martha. Call your lawyer friend. The one who handled your divorce. Cora, don't, Ben started. The time for negotiations is over, I cut him off. You made your choice at Riverside Park. Now I'm making mine. Dr. Phillips's office smelled like artificial lavender and judgment. I sat rigid in the leather chair, staring at the divorce papers spread across her desk while she scribbled notes about my adjustment process. Have you slept at all this week, Cora? I traced the edge of Ben's financial disclosure form. 3 separate bank accounts I'd never known about. Sleep isn't really a priority right now. Your sister mentioned the incident with your son and the car. She set down her pen. How are you handling the boys' reactions? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, we need to talk. About Ben. And the money. Hannah. My fingers trembled as I showed Dr. Phillips the message. How's that for handling things? What are you thinking of doing? I slipped the phone back into my pocket. Meeting her. Is that wise? Wise stopped being relevant the moment my husband knocked up someone younger than his vintage wine collection. I stood up, gathering the papers. Thank you for your time, Dr. Phillips, but I need to. Sit down, Cora. Something in her tone made me pause. You're planning something, she said. I can see it in your eyes. The same look I saw in my sister's face before she destroyed her ex-husband's life and ended up in jail for it. I'm not. You're a teacher. A mother. Think about what you're risking. My laugh came out harsh. I already lost everything that mattered. Have you? Your sons still need you. Your career. Another buzz from my phone. Hannah again, the Henderson project isn't what you think. He's been lying to everyone. I have to go. I reached for my bag. Cora, wait. Dr. Phillips handed me her card. Before you do anything permanent, call me. Day or night. I nodded, already heading for the door. In the parking lot, I dialed Martha's number. You're not seriously meeting her, Martha said when I told her. At the coffee shop on 5th. Public place, security cameras. It's a trap. She's trying to. She's carrying my husband's child while apparently knowing something that could ruin him. I started my car. I need to know what she knows. Then I'm coming with you. No. I pulled onto the street. I need you to do something else. Go to the house. The boys are with Ben for their weekly dinner. I need you to check his home office. What am I looking for? The Henderson project files. The real ones, not the fake set he keeps on his desk. Check the safe behind the Monet print. How do you know? 23 years of marriage teaches you things. I paused at a red light. The combination is Lucas's birthday. Ben always did favor the quiet one. Cora. Martha's voice softened. Be careful. Women like Hannah are young, beautiful, pregnant, are desperate. And desperate people are dangerous. The coffee shop came into view. Through the window, I could see Hannah already seated, her hand resting protectively over her stomach. She looked up, meeting my eyes through the glass. I have to go. Wait, Martha said quickly. There's something else you should know. I did some digging. Hannah's been through this before. My hand froze on the car door. What? 2 years ago. Different company, different married executive. She claimed pregnancy then too, but after she drained his accounts, she disappeared. The pieces clicked into place. And the pregnancy? Never existed. Cora, she's running a con, and Ben is the mark. I watched Hannah check her phone, her free hand still curved around her non-existent baby bump. Keep looking through his office. I need to have a little chat with my husband's pregnant girlfriend. I ended the call and stepped out of the car, my teacher's smile firmly in place. Hannah waved, all innocent eyes, and practiced vulnerability. Two could play at that game. Time to find out who is better at manipulation, the seasoned wife or the professional con artist. The Henderson Project files lay scattered across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. Martha stood beside me, her face pale as we pieced together what Ben had been hiding. He's been embezzling, I whispered, running my finger down a column of numbers that didn't add up. Using the project as cover. And Hannah knows. Martha picked up another document. That's why she chose him. My phone buzzed with a text from Evan, Dad's on his way over. He knows you took the files. I started gathering the papers. How much time? 10 minutes, maybe less. Martha grabbed her keys. I'll take copies to my lawyer friend. No. I pulled out my phone, snapping photos of each page. We need leverage, not legal action. Not yet. The front door slammed open. Ben stormed in, his face twisted with rage. Where are they? I met his eyes across the kitchen. Where's Hannah? Shouldn't she be here for this conversation? Don't play games, Cora. Those files are company property. Funny. I held up a bank statement. I don't remember offshore accounts being part of real estate development. He lunged for the papers. Martha stepped between us, but I waved her off. It's fine, I said, my voice steady. Let him take them. I already have what I need. Ben froze. What does that mean? It means I had coffee with Hannah yesterday. I watched his face carefully. She's quite the actress, isn't she? The pregnancy, the devoted girlfriend act. Tell me, did you know about the executive in Seattle? The one she bled dry last year? Color drained from his face. You're lying. Am I? Check your accounts, Ben. The ones you thought I didn't know about. See how much is left. He grabbed his phone, fingers trembling as he pulled up his banking app. The sound he made was almost inhuman. She's gone, isn't she? I asked softly. With everything. You knew. He advanced on me. You knew and you let her. Dad, stop. Evan appeared in the doorway, Lucas behind him. Both looked horrified. Your mother destroyed everything, Ben snarled. I destroyed nothing, I cut in. I just waited. Watched. Like I've been doing for months, while you threw away our family for someone who saw you as nothing but a mark. The boys' college funds, he whispered. Our savings. Are safe. I pulled out another set of papers. I moved them weeks ago. Right after I found Hannah's text messages. Lucas stepped forward. Mom, what's happening? Your father's girlfriend wasn't pregnant, Martha explained gently. She was a con artist who just emptied every account she had access to, I finished. Including the Henderson Project funds. How will you explain that to the board, Ben? He sank into a chair, head in his hands. I'll be arrested. Probably. I gathered the remaining files. Unless. His head snapped up. Unless what? Unless you sign these. I pulled out divorce papers. Full custody. The house. Half your legitimate assets. In return, these files disappear. That's blackmail, he whispered. That's justice. Evan moved to stand beside me. Sign them, Dad. Ben looked at our sons, Evan's fierce protectiveness, Lucas's quiet disappointment. Then at me, seeing perhaps for the first time the woman who'd been watching, waiting, planning while he destroyed everything we'd built. You've changed, he said. No. I slid the papers toward him. I just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. Your turn to make a choice. Martha handed him a pen. The only sound in the kitchen was the scratch of ink as Ben Mitchell signed away his family to save himself. I felt nothing watching him leave. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just a hollow certainty that this wasn't over. Hannah might have taken his money, but I'd taken something far more valuable, his power to hurt us again. Mom? Lucas touched my arm. Are you okay? I looked at my sons, then at Martha, seeing the strength we'd found together. No, I said honestly. But I will be. We all will be. The police lights painted my front yard in alternating red and blue. I stood in the doorway, watching two officers lead Ben to their cruiser while neighbors peered from behind curtains. Not exactly how I'd planned this evening to go. He tried to kill me, Hannah's voice crackled through the officer's radio. I have proof. Recordings, messages, everything. Martha gripped my arm. She planned this. Of course she did. I watched Ben's head disappear into the police car. She needed a clean escape. The detective who'd been questioning me closed his notebook. Mrs. Mitchell, given your husband's recent behavior and the evidence Ms. Walker provided, we'll need you to come down to the station. For what? Evan stepped forward, protective. Standard procedure. The detective's eyes were cold. Especially given the financial documents we found in your mother's possession. My stomach dropped. The Henderson files. I'd forgotten to move them after Ben signed the divorce papers. I'll call our lawyer, Martha whispered. No time. I grabbed my coat. Lucas, stay with your aunt. Evan. I'm coming with you. The drive to the station was silent. In the harsh fluorescent lights of the interview room, Detective Sanders laid out photos of the files, bank statements, and a series of text messages I'd never seen before. Hannah Walker claims you orchestrated this entire situation, he said. That you manipulated her into helping expose your husband's crimes, then threatened to frame her if she didn't leave town. I almost laughed. That's ridiculous. Is it? He pushed forward a printed email. This message suggests you knew about the embezzlement months ago, but waited to report it. Why? I was protecting my family. Or building a case for divorce while allowing criminal activity to continue. He leaned forward. That's conspiracy, Mrs. Mitchell. The room suddenly felt too small. Through the window, I could see Evan pacing in the hallway, looking younger than his 19 years. Hannah Walker has provided detailed records of your conversations, Sanders continued. Including your meeting at the coffee shop where you allegedly threatened her. She's lying. Maybe. But combined with these files, your recent financial transactions, and your son's vandalism of your husband's car. He spread his hands. It doesn't look good. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sorry, Cora. Had to protect myself. Nothing personal. H. Another buzz. Martha, Ben's being released. Hannah dropped the assault charges. She's gone. Of course. She'd gotten what she wanted, the money, the clean escape, and me left holding the evidence of Ben's crimes. Perfect setup. Mrs. Mitchell? Sanders was waiting. I want my lawyer. That's your right. He gathered the files. But consider this, your husband's claiming you orchestrated everything. The theft, the false pregnancy story, all of it. With Hannah gone, it's your word against his. Through the window, I watched Ben walk past, escorted by his lawyer. He didn't look at me, but I saw the slight smile on his face. He'd found his way out, by making me the villain of the story. Mom? Evan's voice cracked as they led me to a holding cell. What do we do? I thought of the garden I'd planted when we first moved into our house. How sometimes you had to burn everything down to make way for new growth. Call Dr. Phillips, I said. Her card is in my wallet. Tell her I'm ready to talk about what really happened. But that means everything comes out. The affair, the embezzlement, Hannah's past cons. All of it. Dad will go to prison. So might I. I touched his face through the bars. But sometimes the truth is worth the price. The cell door clanged shut. Through the small window, I could see the night sky, dark and endless. Somewhere out there, Hannah was probably boarding a plane with my husband's money, thinking she'd won. She didn't understand. Some victories aren't about money or escape. Sometimes they're about burning everything down and standing in the ashes, finally free to rebuild. I sat on the narrow bed, closed my eyes, and began planning my next move. The game wasn't over. It was just changing rules. Dr. Phillips's testimony echoed through the courtroom like a death knell. Mrs. Mitchell came to me concerned about her husband's financial improprieties months before the arrest. She was gathering evidence to protect her family, not conspire with Miss Walker. I watched Ben's face from across the room. His perfect mask finally cracking as his lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. And these sessions, the prosecutor continued, did Mrs. Mitchell ever mention planning to frame her husband? No. She was focused on documenting the truth, nothing more. The truth. Such a simple word for something that had destroyed everything I'd known. The courthouse doors burst open. Martha rushed in, clutching her phone. They found her. The judge's gavel cracked against wood. Order! Mrs. Mitchell's sister, this is highly irregular. Your Honor, my lawyer interrupted, we've just received crucial evidence. Hannah Walker has been located in Singapore. Ben stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. That's impossible. Not impossible, I said quietly. Inevitable. Did you really think she'd stop at just one mark? The prosecutor approached the bench with Martha's phone. A video played on the screen, Hannah, in a hotel room, counting stacks of cash while speaking to someone off camera. The Henderson Project was perfect, her voice rang clear. Mitchell was so desperate to hide the embezzlement, he never questioned anything. His wife, though. Hannah laughed. She was smarter than expected. Almost ruined everything. Ben's face went ash white. Turn it off. Can't handle the truth? Evan called from the gallery. About how she played you. Order! The judge's gavel cracked again. Mr. Mitchell, sit down. The video continued. Hannah detailed every transaction, every manipulation. How she'd used Ben's guilt over the affair to access company accounts. How she'd planned to frame me all along. And the pregnancy, the off-camera voice asked. Hannah's laugh turned cruel. Please. Men like Ben Mitchell are all the same. Wave a baby in front of them and they'll sign anything. The courtroom erupted. Through the chaos, I watched my husband, the man I'd spent 23 years loving, crumble into himself as the full weight of his choices crashed down. Your Honor, Ben's lawyer started. Save it, Ben, cut him off. He stood, shoulders slumped. I want to change my plea. Ben, don't. It's over. He turned to face me. You knew, didn't you? That she'd try this again somewhere else. That someone would eventually catch her. I knew she'd get greedy. I met his eyes. Just like I knew you'd choose her over us until it was too late. The court will recess, the judge announced. 1 hour. In the hallway, Evan and Lucas flanked me like guards. Martha showed me the rest of the evidence, Hannah's pattern across 3 countries, 5 executives, millions in stolen funds. Singapore authorities are moving in now, she said. She'll never see it coming. Just like Dad, Lucas muttered. Ben approached us, escorted by his lawyer. Cora, please. We can still. Still what? Evan stepped forward. Pretend you didn't choose her over us? Over Mom? I was wrong. Ben's voice cracked. About everything. Yes, I said simply. You were. The bailiff called us back in. Before entering, I turned to Ben one last time. You know what the difference is between Hannah and me? She wanted revenge. I just wanted the truth. And now? Now I want peace. I straightened my spine. The boys and I are moving to the coast. Starting fresh. You should plead guilty, Ben. It's the only way they'll ever forgive you. Inside the courtroom, I took my seat as Ben approached the bench. The truth had cost us everything we'd built together. But watching him finally face his choices, I realized something. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself again. The judge called for order, and Ben spoke the words that would end our shared life forever. I closed my eyes, feeling not triumph, but relief. The game was over. We had all lost something, but at least now we could stop pretending. The coastal wind carried the scent of salt and new beginnings as I planted the last rosebush in our garden. Behind me, the sound of Evan's guitar drifted from the deck of our new home, mixing with Lucas's quiet humming. My phone buzzed. Martha's text was brief, Hannah caught. Singapore authorities found her starting the same scam with a tech CEO. I didn't respond. Instead, I pressed my hands deeper into the soil, feeling its cool dampness against my skin. Some endings didn't need acknowledgement. Mom? Lucas appeared beside me, holding a letter. This came for you. Dad's handwriting. The envelope was prison-stamped, heavy with words I wasn't sure I wanted to read. What do you think? Should we open it together? He sat cross-legged in the grass, reminding me of when he was small enough to help me plant marigolds. Only if you want to. Evan joined us, setting his guitar aside. Whatever's in there won't change anything. No, I agreed, breaking the seal. But maybe it needs to be heard anyway. Ben's letter was short, his usually precise handwriting shaky. Cora. The prosecutor showed me Hannah's complete record today. 7 men before me. All of us thinking we were special, different. But you were the only one who saw through her. The only one strong enough to stand your ground. I keep thinking about that garden you always wanted by the coast. The one I said was impractical because of the salt air. Guess you proved me wrong about that too. The boys won't answer my calls. I don't blame them. Just tell them I finally understand what I threw away. Ben. Lucas leaned against my shoulder. Are you okay? Actually, yes. I folded the letter, tucking it under a stone in the garden. Some things need to stay buried so others can grow. Like your impossible coastal garden? Evan smiled slightly. Exactly. I stood, brushing dirt from my knees. Speaking of which, help me with these last few plants. We worked in comfortable silence, 3 pairs of hands in the earth, building something new from the ashes of what we'd lost. The roses would struggle at first against the salt air, but they'd adapt. Grow stronger. Just like we had. Martha's car pulled into the driveway. She emerged carrying grocery bags and a familiar-looking file. The last of the Henderson Project documents, she announced. All evidence processed and filed away. Case closed. Burn it, I said, surprising myself. We don't need it anymore. Evan looked up sharply. But what if? What if nothing? I took the file, walked to our fire pit, and struck a match. Some victories aren't about keeping proof. They're about choosing to let go. We watched the papers curl and blacken, years of lies and manipulation turning to ash in the coastal breeze. Lucas sketched the scene in his notebook, while Evan strummed a quiet melody that sounded like healing. The roses will bloom by spring, Martha observed, settling into a deck chair. Maybe. I smiled, thinking of Ben's letter under its garden stone. But that's not why I planted them. No? I planted them because everyone said they wouldn't survive here. That it was impossible. I looked at my sons, these beautiful, resilient young men who'd weathered the storm with me. Sometimes proving something's possible is more important than making it easy. The sun began to set over the water, painting the sky in colors no revenge could match. Tomorrow, I'd return to my classroom, teaching literature to students who'd never know how their teacher had rewritten her own story. My sons would continue healing, creating art and music from their pain. And somewhere in a prison cell, Ben would read about Hannah's arrest and finally understand that some betrayals come with built-in justice. But tonight, we sat in our impossible garden, watching the roses sway in the salt air. Proving that broken things could be beautiful if you planted them in the right soil. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something better, a future that belonged entirely to me.